Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Premier Jason Kenney says he has a plan to help rebuild the Alberta economy, and it involves 9 other provinces. Winnipeg Jets General Manager Kevin Cheveldayoff wrapped up a meeting with NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman to discuss his role in the Chicago Blackhawks' handling of sexual assault allegations. And a family in Lethbridge is celebrating Halloween with a unique pirate-themed twist. We have the details.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau visited the Netherlands today. He spoke to Parliament and discussed the challenges this generation is facing. He also spoke about the important relationship between the two countries and their common goals leading up to the G20 Leaders Summit.
Our generation faces real challenges: rising populism and extremism, a more unpredictable world, workers losing their jobs to automation, wildfires laying waste to entire towns, and sea levels creeping up on entire countries. This is not the world of those Dutch thinkers from hundreds of years ago. It is not the world our grandparents stood shoulder to shoulder together against the Nazi regime. But if online radicalization drives someone to hate their fellow citizen, is it really so different from the intolerance our grandparents sought to defeat?
The Alberta government says a new report shows that creating a made-in-Alberta Provincial Police Service is realistic, cost-effective, and is worth further consideration. The province hired PwC Canada a year ago to study the feasibility of replacing the RCMP in Alberta with a provincial police force. In a release today, Premier Jason Kenney said the independent report makes a compelling case for creating a police service that is designed by Albertans for Albertans. Alberta's government is committed to the safety and security of all Albertans, no matter where they live. A much stronger model of community policing with closer integration of social services and the involvement of Indigenous people in governance holds real potential for improving policing in Alberta. RCMP Deputy Commissioner Curtis Zablocki responded to the Provincial Police Service study and said he's proud to be the police service of jurisdiction for Alberta.
And we are resolute in our commitment to the safety and security of Albertans. We'll continue to work closely with the citizens and community leaders and community stakeholders we serve. Since the announcement of the policing study, and despite uncertainty it has brought to their employment, Alberta RCMP employees have held steadfast in their service to Albertans and the safety of their communities. I want all Albertans to know that your Alberta RCMP employees are fiercely proud to serve this province.
Premier Jason Kenney says it's very important to strike down barriers to labour mobility. Kenney says with faster credential recognition, the province will make it easier for people in other provinces to come to Alberta to help rebuild our economy.
Some economists have estimated that the total negative economic impact of interprovincial barriers to goods, services, and labour it could be quantified by as much as $130 billion in cost to our economy, and tens and tens of thousands of jobs. The Labour Mobility Act, Mr. Speaker, is a bold and historic effort by Alberta, should it be passed, to effectively strike down any remaining barriers to labour mobility for the province of Alberta in welcoming Canadians from the other 9 provinces.
The province has introduced legislation that it says will help municipalities recoup some of the millions of dollars in unpaid property taxes that are owed by energy companies. Municipal Affairs Minister Rick McIver says it is a legal resource where towns and cities can seize assets that exist within that municipality. The legislation is in response to a growing problem of oil and gas companies, both solvent and insolvent, not paying municipal property taxes. Rural Municipalities Alberta says those unpaid taxes now total $245 million, about half of which is from companies still operating. Lethbridge County Council voted for a date for a by-election for Division 5. The county did not receive any candidates for the division during the recent municipal election. The Alberta government told the county they would have to hold a by-election to have another candidate fill the vacant spot. The nomination period starts today, and anyone interested has until November 15th to fill out their papers. The new reeve for Lethbridge County Division 2, Tori Campbell, says the county is trying to generate more interest for candidates to run.
The team here at the county has done a great job pushing as much out as they can on social media, obviously using every other form of media that we can between the newspapers and also every avenue available to us. I know there was discussion, like I say yesterday, regarding the possibility of doing a mail out to those residents in that division, just trying to make sure that everyone is aware. I know we have had some feedback that there is some interest, and obviously that's positive, and we hope that plays out well for us.
Advanced voting will take place on December the 4th, and voters will be heading to the polls on December the 13th. Trick-or-treaters will be hitting the sidewalks on Sunday celebrating Halloween. Now, the Lethbridge Fire Department has come out with some safety tips before heading out. When it comes to costumes, they say try to avoid long costumes which can drag, creating a tripping hazard. As well, if you have carved your pumpkin, it's recommended to use a battery candle rather than an open flame to limit the possibility of a fire. Fire Prevention Officer Troy Hicks says common sense is key in keeping everyone safe this weekend.
When it comes to decorations, don't overpower your electrical outlets. Don't have too many things plugged into one. Make sure your exit doors are clear. Don't have statues or some of these Halloween decorations we see all around that are unbelievably big and very nice, but they take up so much space they could block your door, they could block a possible exit path if you need to get out. And like I was saying earlier, even with the children in their costumes, keep an eye on the amount of decorations you have in your patio as well. It's a trip hazard. And like I said, kids, with everything that's gone on this last year and a half, I remember the children last year being so excited. I'm thinking they're going to be even more excited this year. They're going to be running around, they're going to be going. So you don't need anything on your steps or like to or from your door, just to minimize the risk of a kid possibly tripping, falling, injuring themselves or some of that. It'll pretty quick stop to a fun Halloween night, that's for sure.
Hicks says for anyone driving around on Halloween to slow down and don't be in a rush, as kids will be excited and may run out through a crosswalk. If you drive down 6th Avenue South in our city, you'll notice a house decked out in pirate gear. As Micah Quinn explains now, the homeowners have been decorating their residence in pirate attire for years as a way to celebrate Halloween.
This pirate house is ready to set sail into Halloween night on October 31st. Carrie and John Kerber bought the house in 1993, and that's when the pirate-themed decorations began to creep in.
And we started decorating, I think we had just graves and body parts. Then it graduated at some point to the castle. The castle was around for several years, and I think it's got to be close to 20 years now that the pirate ship has been here. Changes a little bit every year, gets a little better, a little different.
You might be wondering where the inspiration for the pirate theme came from, and chances are you've already guessed.
Well, when Pirates of the Caribbean first came out, we just loved the movie. It was just an amazing movie, and the one morning we were sitting at breakfast, and we grabbed a napkin and drew a pirate ship on our house, and then it happened. The pirate ship, the Black Pearl, set sail that year.
Kerber says the house brought in 1,200 trick-or-treaters in 1 year, which is a record for the couple.
That doesn't include grandma and grandpa and mom and dad and cousins that don't come down the walkway. Of course, last year, COVID, we were down to about, I think we did 900 kids came to visit. We're expecting about the same this year.
Because of current COVID restrictions, the Kerbers won't be allowing trick-or-treaters to come down the main path of the house. Instead, they'll be greeting the kids at the gate. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
A former team of Lethbridge College Civil Engineering Technology students received a provincial honor. As Carson Marsouk reports now, the trio investigated if the addition of polypropylene fibers to concrete can help protect it long-term from cracking or deterioration.
3 former Lethbridge College Civil Engineering Technology students have received concrete proof that their project stands out from others. Lane Rogensack, Robert Bearda, and Brett Porter have been named finalists of the Capstone Project of the Year award.
Our project was the study of polypropylene fibers in concrete and seeing if it would be an adequate replacement for rebar. So the idea came from We are brainstorming different materials that could increase the strength in concrete and also increase other engineering properties like crack resistance, and polypropylene fibers are what came to mind.
Rogensack says in construction, rebar is often added to concrete to increase the strength. However, it cannot add strength to the exposed edges of concrete. As a result, cracks can form along those edges, allowing water to infiltrate the concrete and corrode the rebar reinforcement. The project was part of the team's end-of-term project for the program.
We were very excited to see this nomination. There's a lot of hard work and a lot of time that was put into this project, so it was very pleasing to see us get rewarded with this nomination.
However, the end result didn't go as planned. The concrete beams with fibers split in half during a pressure test, proving samples with rebar are stronger. But Asset CEO Barry Kavanagh says that didn't take the group out of contention for becoming finalists.
It's not whether a project is successful that determines whether it's a worthwhile project. If you think about this project, this is a line of inquiry that needed to be pursued. Answers need to be had about what things will work and what won't. So they went about it in a very rigorous scientific way, and they applied exactly the approach that we think should be applied.
The team's project was one of 7 finalists named by Asset for the Capstone Project of the Year award. The winning project will be announced in November. For Bridge City News, I'm Carson Marsouk.
Remembrance Day is about 2 weeks away now, and Christmas is also sneaking up on us. Many Canadians feel that we shouldn't even think about Christmas and putting up Christmas lights until after November the 11th, while other people say, you know what, no, veterans fought for our freedoms so that we can celebrate Christmas anytime we want. For our online poll question, we're asking, do you put up Christmas decorations before Remembrance Day, November the 11th? Make sure you log on to our website, bridgecitynews.ca, and let us know your thoughts. We'll tabulate the votes and have them for you around Remembrance Day. Jeanette Rocher is here now with a quick peek at our weather forecast. Jeanette, it looks like our weekend may be off to a bit of a soggy beginning.
Yeah, well, the forecast did call for 2 centimeters of snow today and another 2 to 4 centimeters this evening. So I think it's beginning to look a lot more like Christmas instead of Halloween. But the good news is it's not going to last. By Saturday noon, those clouds are going to clear up. We are going to be seeing a high of 0 degrees tomorrow and only a 15-kilometer-per-hour wind, so not too bad at all. Now, how the rest of the week is shaping up, I will tell you that later on in the show.
Thanks so much, Jeanette. Environment Canada issued rainfall warnings once again for parts of BC's south coast with the potential for snow on mountain highways in the interior. The rainfall warnings cover Victoria, Vancouver, the Fraser Valley, and Fraser Canyon. A warning for the Nicola and Okanagan Valley areas say most highway passes would see heavy rain, but snow is forecast at higher elevations. The weather agency warned of possible snowfall accumulations of up to 25 centimeters overnight, with the potential of another 10 centimeters along the highway between Merritt and Kelowna. BC Premier John Horgan says he requires immediate biopsy surgery following the discovery of a growth in his throat. He says he plans to stay on the job, however. Horgan says he's been in and out of hospital for a number of weeks. The 62-year-old Premier says he had bladder cancer when he was in his 40s, and he's confident that he'll be fine.
And it's the extraordinary efforts of our public health care system that gives me complete confidence that all will be well for me. And for those of you out there who do have concerns about this or that, don't wait. See a doctor. Urgent primary care centers are there for this very reason. I think everyone can have complete confidence, despite an extraordinary 21 months of a global pandemic, that healthcare workers, the numerous ones I've met over the past number of weeks in different settings, are not only professional, but they're kind, they're caring, and they're compassionate, and they deserve our support.
A lawyer for former Canadian fashion mogul Peter Nygard says his client flew to Toronto to face sexual assault charges. Earlier this month, Toronto police charged Nygard with 6 counts of sexual assault and 3 counts of forcible confinement dating back to the late 80s and mid-2000s. Now, that same day, he agreed to be extradited to the United States to face 1 charge of sex trafficking. Nygard was arrested in Winnipeg last year under the Extradition Act. The NHL will not be disciplining the Winnipeg Jets general manager over the Chicago Blackhawks' handling of sexual assault allegations. The GM, Kevin Cheveldayoff, met with NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman earlier today in New York to discuss his role in the Chicago Blackhawks sexual assault scandal. Cheveldayoff was assistant GM of the Blackhawks when the allegations first surfaced that former video coach Brad Aldrich sexually assaulted player Kyle Beach back in 2010. An investigation by the law firm Jenner and Block commissioned by the Blackhawks in response to 2 lawsuits found that allegations were largely ignored by the team for 3 weeks in May of 2010 after the team met to discuss them. The Supreme Court of Canada welcomed its newest member on Thursday, Justice Mahmoud Jamal. Jamal was officially sworn in at a private event on Canada Day. Now, he says joining Canada's highest court allows him to bring in his value of diversity, which celebrates all nationalities, ethnicities, and religions.
When I tried to connect the dots in my own life, to bring meaning to the seeming random particularity over 54 years, the only unifying principle that seems to stitch it all together is an abiding belief in pluralism, a belief in the inherent value of the diversity of nationalities, ethnicities, religions, languages, legal systems, and perspectives that exemplify what it means to be Canadian.
Former Canadian Armed Forces reservist Patrick Matthews was sentenced to 9 years in U.S. prison for his role in a plot to disrupt a gun rights rally in Virginia and allegedly helped to trigger a race war south of the border.
Today, a federal judge sentenced Brian Lemley and Patrick Matthews to 9 years each in federal prison. A third individual, Mr. William Bilbro, was already sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. These men sought to divide our community based on hate and through acts of violence and terror. They collected and assembled weapons and ammunition, trained for acts of violence, vetted others for their cause, and attempted to recruit like-minded extremists.
U.S. President Joe Biden arrived at the Vatican today for a meeting with Pope Francis. The Pope called the president a good Catholic who should continue to receive communion, even though some conservative U.S. Catholic leaders argue he should be denied the sacrament for his stance on abortion. During their 90 minutes together, 75 of them were in private. Following his visit with Pope Francis, Biden was scheduled to meet with French President Emmanuel Macron. It was their first in-person encounter since the U.S. allegedly thwarted a submarine deal that angered the French government. It was a chilly and wet Friday in Lethbridge, but more of the wet stuff is on the way. But how long will it last? We'll have full weather details for you in just a moment. You know, it felt a lot more like winter and not autumn today as we had a mixture of snow and rain in southwestern Alberta here. Jeanette Rocher is back with a full look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, will some of the storm clouds be clearing out this weekend?
Thankfully, yes, Hal, they will be. We've just got to push through this evening when we'll be seeing another 2 to 4 centimeters of the white stuff. The good news, though, it's not going to last. By Saturday, we're going to see those clouds clear up by about noon. 0 degrees is the high tomorrow, 15K winds, so not too bad. Into Sunday, sunshine and 4 degrees, up to 7 degrees on Monday. We're not going to see those double digits until at least Tuesday, giving us higher than average values for this time of year. So sunshine on Tuesday. Wednesday all the way up to 13 and a high of 12 on Thursday with a mix of sun and cloud. So we're going to see that temperature dip and then climb back up again to bring us higher than the average for this time of year, which is 10 degrees. -3 is the average low. 24 is where we were sitting back in 1962, and it was a freezing -26 back in 1991. 8:15 is when the sun rose this morning. Sunset this evening right at 6:15 p.m., giving us exactly 10 hours of daylight. Now, over on the west coast tomorrow, we're going to be seeing sunny skies in Victoria, high of 12 degrees, 11 the high in Vancouver. Over in Edmonton, sunshine also with a high of 5 degrees, 20 to 40K winds there. Calgary, sunshine and 0, very much similar weather to Lethbridge. They're going to be seeing more snow this evening, and it is going to clear up by Saturday. Also a 15-kilometer-per-hour wind in Calgary tomorrow. Now in Saskatoon, sunshine, 3 degrees there, 2 degrees in Regina with a mix of sun and cloud. Winnipeg's high 8 degrees tomorrow, and they could see a 70% chance of showers there. As we look to the central part of the country, actually the windiest part of the country is Toronto tomorrow. At times they're going to be seeing those wind gusts up to 60 kilometers per hour. Periods of rain and drizzle there, 13 the high, 9 the high in Ottawa, with also rain beginning tomorrow morning, 11 degrees the high in Montreal. Periods of rain expected there as well. As we look to the east coast, Fredericton's high 13 degrees, a high of 12 degrees expected tomorrow in Halifax with a mix of sun and clouds. Sunny skies there in Charlottetown, 13 the high, and a high of 10 degrees in St. John's, Newfoundland with sunny skies there as well. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg said his company is rebranding itself as Meta. He says it is in an effort to encompass its virtual reality for the future, or what Zuckerberg calls the metaverse.
It is time for us to adopt a new company brand to encompass everything that we do. To reflect who we are and what we hope to build, I am proud to announce that starting today, our company is now Meta.
Instead of acknowledging in very explicit terms all the negative publicity and the reasons for that negative publicity, Facebook has very much decided to leave everything behind and go forward. And you can see that in the name change, Meta, which means beyond. They're really looking to dazzle us with everything that they're going to do. And it's not even in the near future. This is very much 5 years out, maybe even 10 years out. The kind of stuff that they're talking about isn't close to being a reality.
Building our social media apps will always be an important focus for us. But right now, our brand is so tightly linked to one product that it can't possibly represent everything that we're doing today, let alone in the future.
I believe Facebook is an extremely innovative company, and I have no doubt that the folks that they have working on virtual reality, augmented reality, and building that metaverse are some of the most talented people in the world. And it's true that we could see some really incredible things, and I don't think it's a bad move to separate the building of that metaverse from their family of apps.
Imperial Oil earned a third quarter profit of $908 million. The company reported its highest production for the quarter in more than 30 years and benefited from higher oil prices. The company says that compared with a profit of $3 million in the same quarter last year. Revenue and other income totaled $10.23 billion. That is up from $5.96 billion a year ago. A company which was in the headlines a lot over the past couple of years is back in the news once again. SNC-Lavalin is reporting a third quarter profit of $600.7 million. That is up from a loss of $85.1 million in the same quarter last year. Company officials say the results were boosted by a solid gain of its oil and gas business to the tune of $577.8 million. Revenue rose from $1.78 to $1.81 billion. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down 160 points on the day to 21,037. The Dow was up 89 points to 35,820. The S&P 500 was up 8 points to 4605, and the Nasdaq was up 50 points on the day to 15,498. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 76 cents to 83.57 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 36 cents to 5.43 US. Gold was down 15.53 to 17.8338 US an ounce, and silver was down 18 cents to 23.90 US an ounce. Wheat is at $11.67 per bushel, barley's at $9.40, canola's at $21.77, and corn is at $10.21 per bushel. Live cattle were up $2.88 to $127.38. Feeder cattle were down $1.08 to $156.58, and lean hogs were up 88 cents to 76.08. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 80.73 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, the province has introduced legislation that it says will help municipalities recoup some of the millions of dollars in unpaid property taxes they're owed by energy companies. Municipal Affairs Minister Rick McIver says it's a legal resource where towns and cities can seize assets that exist within that municipality. Rural Municipalities Alberta says unpaid taxes now total $245 million, about half of which is from companies still operating. There's a homeschooling movement afoot called Freedom Teachers. Coming up, we chat with one of the group's spokespeople, Christian Peterson, about the importance of homeschooling, especially during uncertain times. Catch that 15-minute Q&A with Jeanette Rocher in just a moment.
With all the pandemic stress and uncertainty of employment mandates, some parents and students are looking for alternatives in their lives. Well, if you're looking for another option to educate your child, like possibly homeschooling, there's a group of teachers who are willing to help support you in that. Christian Peterson joins me now. He's started a project called Freedom Teachers, and they're already creating a nationwide impact. Christian, thanks so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. So tell us, how did this project Freedom Teachers get started, and what exactly is it?
So Freedom Teachers is an initiative that was started by a small group of teachers that I was connected to. We were seeing an area that was needing support, and parents were already reaching out to us in our classrooms and looking for information. And things start with teachers, as they do on a regular, just wanting to help parents and students on a general level. And it kind of branched out into something much larger than what we were originally considering. The thought of parents was really with us through this process, because we know that what parents are dealing with right now, and we know that there's a lot on their plates, and we think that people really need to know that there's alternatives out there. We are not an alternative replacement for education. We are offering tutoring services basically to parents, the parents that are looking at homeschooling their kids and looking for those alternatives. And we know that there's a lot of teachers out there that are going to be looking for alternatives to supplement their income if they have to make some difficult decisions. And we are trying to connect with as many teachers as we can to be able to support and provide them with what they need to be able to continue to live in whatever capacity that looks like for different people.
Okay, so specifically, this all started because of COVID and because of the restrictions. And are we talking masking, vaccinations, anything that the parents maybe aren't agreeing with, that their kids are kind of struggling with in school?
Yeah, there's a variety of reasons why parents are looking at homeschooling their kids. I think part of it is masking. We've had a massive outreach from parents who have kids that are pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. Obviously, those kids have experienced COVID for most of their education lives, and the parents are very frustrated with masking. And so they are looking for alternatives. And obviously, the big outreach for teachers is that teachers don't know that there's people who are working to support them, and they don't know that there's alternatives. And teachers are trying to create their own alternatives and tutoring supports. But basically, what we are looking to do is connect everyone, whether they are going through our program specifically or not. We want to connect people, and we've been connected with people from British Columbia all the way to Nova Scotia. And some people want to connect through an online platform. Some people are looking for a common in-person alternative that they can do, and they want to connect with other people. And so basically, we are taking as much information as we can from as many people as we can. And at the very least, we are trying very, very hard to get people connected with the resources that they need to be able to support themselves and make the decisions that they think are best for their families. And that's parents and teachers.
Right. Okay. Now, you yourself are a teacher. We can't identify your location or your school district or anything like that. But have you basically quit your job and are doing this full time now from your home, or are you still teaching in a school and then you're doing this on the side?
We're still teaching. Everyone that's involved in what's happening is doing what we can with the time and the opportunity that we have right now. It's very long days for some people trying to connect. And I'm connected with a lot of people who are teaching and then going home and working, 5-6 hours in the evenings to make this happen. It looks different for everyone, but there are people that we are connected to that are willing to give as much as they can to commit to supporting parents and students.
Okay, so since this has started, who have been the types of people who have been reaching out to you?
It's been really crazy. We've had all kinds of people reaching out. We've had people who are brand new teachers who are really concerned about the current environment and already experiencing burnout from the amount of expectation for new teachers that are coming in. And we've also been contacted by teachers that have been teaching for 35 years and are retired, and they want to now contact us and do something and get involved and come out of retirement and start fresh. And then we've also had people who are really interested in supporting the project or initiative side of what we're doing. So people who are in HR, people who are in IT and are familiar with website design and communications and all kinds of different things. We've had teachers who are, CTF teachers that are wondering if there's options to be able to teach kids, how to build things and create things, and music teachers. And everyone wants to know what they can do to help make this a possibility and a reality for everyone involved.
Okay, so what have been some of the concerns of other teachers that you're talking to?
I think the biggest concern for parents and teachers is obviously the mental health and well-being of the kids, parents' kids. That's been like first and foremost through this whole experience for everyone, and we've seen teachers have seen firsthand the impact of students having to shift between online and offline, and we know how hard it is on students. And I have been connected, and I have a lot of people reaching out to me that are mental health and well-being experts that want to participate in whatever this looks like from our initiative, and how they can connect with students to help support the mental health and well-being on an in-person or video call or online, whatever it looks like. They want to be connected because they also feel a calling to do or participate in something that is going to go direct to students and be able to support them in this.
Yeah, of course.
I've had some parents who have contacted me over concerns over potential crumbling of infrastructure with the province, and what things are going to look like when teachers leave the system and AHS workers leave the system, and police and firefighters and everyone who's taking these risks or looking at alternatives. It's a big concern for people to not understand or not know what the potential ramifications of that might be for us on a larger scale.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe tell us a little bit about this journey. Where were you 4 weeks ago compared to now?
Things have been happening really quickly. 4 months ago, I was doing distance learning, and I think I was kind of at a point where a lot of teachers are right now. There was a lot of fear about what might be happening. I was kind of in my classroom, door closed, head down, not voicing opinions and concerns, which is something that a lot of people are afraid to do right now. I was almost self-isolating myself. And I think like everyone else, I was just waiting to see what the next steps were going to be, waiting for guidance, waiting to know what was supposed to happen and what my role was going to be in that. And the more I talked to other people, and the more I reflected on what I needed to do and what our purpose should be, I started to realize that there was work that needed to be done. There were things that needed to happen. There were people that needed to be connected that don't have the resources and don't have the connections and don't have the people to reach out to. I never thought that, like even a month ago, if you had asked me a month ago if I would do a public interview to talk about what's happening or my opinions, like I would have told you you're crazy. It's not safe to do stuff like this. But at some point, I think collectively we need to realize that there's a higher purpose. There's a reasoning behind what's happening. And as teachers, we can sit in our class with our heads down and we can wait for someone else to come along and start something, or we can kind of pick up the bricks ourselves and start to build something. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're starting.
Okay. So when did Freedom's Teachers actually start?
About 6 weeks ago.
Oh, that's amazing. And how many students would you say you have?
I would say right now we have maybe 100 students that are interested from K to 9. We have probably more teachers that are looking for support right now than we do parents and students. And I think that something that parents need to realize, and something that is really important, is that parents have a lot of power in what's happening. They have a lot of decision-making ability, and that they aren't trapped in a specific situation, or that they don't have options. I was in our Telegram group yesterday, there was someone who posted a parent, and they said that they were at their parent council meeting at their school, and in the middle of the parent council meeting, they stood up and shouted our name. And then they emailed all of their kids' teachers to let them know that there's initiative out there and there's things that are happening. And to hear anybody say that they're willing to stand up and announce that there are alternatives like that, it's just so unheard of right now in this moment that I really feel like more people need to be doing stuff like that, because that is very empowering and it's very exciting.
Right. Well, that's amazing, especially because it's only been like 6 weeks, like you said, and the word's already getting out there. So how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in pulling their kids out of the school system, I guess, essentially is what it is, and being homeschooled?
So we have we're open on, like, we're accessible on all of our social media platforms right now. We're building out a website. Most of our contact has been made through our Facebook group. It's just Freedom Teachers. And then we have contacts through there where people are contacting us directly through our email. So our email is just freedomteachersltd@gmail.com. We also have a Proton mail of the same name, but mostly we're having parents contact us through those avenues, and then we are sending out information to as many people as we can as well. And we're also sending out information about what we're doing through our social media platforms.
That's amazing. And what are you hearing from parents about how their students are doing?
Well, we haven't officially started yet, but we are getting a lot of feedback from parents, all positive. People have a lot of questions, and we have a lot of information. And there's not one question that has been asked to us yet that we haven't been able to provide a prepared answer for, because we've prepared for almost every single possibility that we can. Parents are just very happy that there's an alternative out there in terms of if they want to homeschool their kids and they're not familiar with the curriculum or what to do, we can connect them. If they want to homeschool their kids and they want to be connected with other parents, we can connect them. We're just trying to build a large community across the province and across the country, hopefully, that is connected, so that people don't feel like they're alone, because no one should feel alone the way things are right now. And this is a really good opportunity through education to connect people through a common collective.
That's amazing. So it's a huge support system. If you want to stay home and teach your kid yourself, you've got a support system of teachers that you can go to for resources, and other parents as well to kind of lean on. That's essentially what this is. So when is it going to actually start?
Well, it's going to be dependent on the situation for teachers. A lot of teachers are, like all of our teachers really basically are teaching right now still. We're waiting to see what the landscape looks like for teachers in the coming months. There are also people who are interested in pursuing an online or in-person presence or supporting teachers and parents as mandates roll out further, whatever those mandates are. People are making decisions based on the information, and I would say that there are teachers out there who aren't 100% dependent on waiting for the mandates that are coming down the pipe in December to make a decision about whether they want to be a part of this or not, because we can't always choose the timing. We just have to prepare for it, and ultimately we have to make decisions for parents, and so we're trying our best to provide and plan for when that's going to be for parents, and we know when that crucial time for parents is going to be, and that is when we are planning for curriculum rollout and connecting with parents and teachers.
Well, Christian Peterson, thank you so much for coming on today and for sharing this information with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Well, we all know that people have different personalities, but do we know to what extent this can impact marital relationships? And perhaps more controversially, there are gender differences which can also impact marriage. Joining us to discuss this is Brent Taylor. He is a Lethbridge marriage coach and the author of His, Hers, Greatest need? Of course, his and hers with a Z or a Z, which is an interesting way to spell that. Brent, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thank you. It's again, it's an honor and it's a privilege to be here, and thank you.
Of course. So first of all, can you briefly share a little bit about what you do to help couples improve their relationships?
Right. Well, the book started out with discovering, and what I share is his and hers greatest need, which you can find in here. And then the single biggest reason why marriages break down, how to build them up. And again, the greatest way a husband loves his wife and the greatest way a wife loves her husband. Those are 4 key components that I share with them when I first meet with them or I do an introduction session. And that is the big aha. After that, I get into the program that I coach them with, UCG, Understanding, Communication, and Giving. And in that, in the understanding component, there's personalities, love languages, gender, plus values and beliefs. And then in the communication, we do a safe talk, which involves appreciation, sensitive items, and apology talk. I've incorporated the 5 apology languages from Dr. Gary Chapman into the scripting of the safe talk. But the most important part that I work with them on is the giving, UC&G, Understanding, Communication, and Giving. Really, I got to get to the heart. Everybody thinks it's a mindset. And yes, that's true, but it's really a heart set and it boils down to our motive. So that's the biggest area that I get to because most people don't realize how selfish we are.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, true. You need someone to almost hold up that mirror in front of you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, of course, your book talks so much about the differences between men and women. So I guess before we get to talking about personality and gender differences, you write in your book that the greatest need for a husband is significance. Can you explain what you mean by husbands needing a significance?
Right. Well, kind of the best way I put it is every guy wants to be his wife's hero. Whether he's dating to be married or whether he is married and whether he's 22 or whether he's 62. Sometimes it can subside and things like that, but every guy wants to be his wife's hero. And every woman, she wants to be fought for. So it kind of makes sense that he wants to be her hero and she wants to be fought for. And it's kind of romantic, but I always say when, God created man, he said it was good. And when we created woman, he said, whoo, man. And it really is. It's a love story. And yeah, it's not all full of roses and the roses grow better through the manure together. But the reality is deep down inside, he wants to be her hero. He wants to be important to her. And men can have ego issues. Tell me one man that doesn't struggle with ego issues. That's rooted in his desire to be significant. But sometimes it can tip the teeter-totter and confidence is one thing, but also humility and humbleness is another thing.
Mm-hmm. Where does that come from, do you think, that need of significance? I think we all have it, but you speak specifically to men.
Right. Now, women want to be significant as well. It's just not their deep core need. Hers is security, emotional and physical security. And, the man's is significance. It actually goes back to the book of Genesis. It goes back to the fall in the garden. And we kind of amped up our needs. We increased them because we wanted to be independent. We fell away. So there was actually a curse that said, cursed are you, you will toil the land all the days of your life. You can't work hard enough. Basically, he was saying, you want to be independent? I'm going to amp it up a little bit. Same thing with women. You want to be independent? I'm going to amp up your need for security. So it really comes down to that. But if you think about it, if a man's designed to be a provider and a protector, her need for security then falls into line with that protection. He wants to protect her. He was made to give his life for his wife. I use the Titanic. Even in the feminist world, I say, well, let's pretend we got the Titanic and the ship's going down and down and down and down, and you have co-captains instead of one captain. So you got man and woman. and everybody's jumping on lifeboats, and there's only one lifeboat left and room for one more person. Man's looking at woman, and who do you think is going to say, you take the last spot on the last lifeboat? It better be the man.
Mm-hmm.
And who do you think is going to accept the offer?
The woman.
And who do you think is going to have some tears going down her face for how much he loved her because he gave his life for his wife? And so, so that's really the litmus test, that he wants to be her protector, her provider. He wants to fight for her, and she wants to be fought for. So it makes, sense that he would want to be her hero, which ties into being significant. Yes, she wants to be significant too, but it's not as deep a core need.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, of course, there are those who would argue that men and women are the same, that there's no real difference. But you, of course, would say that there really are differences in the way our brains are hardwired. Can you explain some of these gender differences?
Well, generally speaking, and it happens biologically at birth or at a very, very young age, boys and girls are wired basically the same. But at a very young age, we're talking weeks old, or even, I don't know if it's, might be in the womb, but I think it's after, testosterone hits the brain of a little boy. Massive amounts of testosterone hit a little boy. But in the early stages, they're generally the same. The communication, the verbal interaction, when you're changing their diapers and you're smiling and goo goo gaga over your children, and there's a connection. But because of the testosterone that hits the male brain, it decreases his connection of that verbal, relational, emotional connection, and it increases his tendency for action and aggression. If he's going to be a provider, if he's going to sacrifice his life, then he has to be willing to put himself at the front end of the battle lines to protect his wife and children. That testosterone is necessary. And here's proof. Lots of ladies think, well, my husband just wants me for sex, or they feel used. Well, actually, man was designed to love his wife. A lot of people think God gave man, woman to be his helpmate. Yes, there's merit there, but largely God is a giver of love, and man was made to give his wife love. And he just happens, because of the testosterone, he happens to love physically. Women tend to connect emotionally first before the physical kicks in. They want to trust. They want to feel secure. They want to know things are looked after. They want to know that she can give herself to him. But men come alive physically first, then the emotional, and then women are kind of the opposite. So I would say God's got a sense of humor because they're kind of missing each other here. So there's a hardwired difference between male and female. Another one is, I believe it's the right side of the brain. The little boy's brain is more wired for spatial, how objects move in space. How many women, you're trying to find a house, you're going to go visit some friends, and you think, well, my husband should just ask for directions. And he goes, no. They think, well, he's got ego issues. Maybe a little bit, but also men actually enjoy figuring out how to get from here to here, how things move in space. They want to figure that out. So there's another difference. Ladies, they just want to get from point A to point B. And so there's a spatial arrangement. Ladies tend to be more relational, and guys tend to be more spatial.
Mm-hmm. And want to fix the problems too. So we all know that men like to fix problems, and women just want their husbands to listen to their problems.
Right, because I say, guys, listen with your eyes and zip your lip. And because most men think, why are we talking unless we're solving a problem? And women think, why are we solving a problem? I just want you to listen. Because men love solvingly. So when a husband is solving his wife's problem, he's actually loving her. But she doesn't see it as that. She takes it critically, because here's what most women don't realize. And I just said it to a couple the other day, and immediately she acknowledged and smiled. And I said, she wants to know that he cares about how she feels about the problem. So you don't need to fix the problem. You need to care how she feels about the problem, because she's looking for the heart connection. She's looking, again, for that security. She wants to know that you care about how she feels. So there's a definite difference. Whereas guys say, why don't we just solve the problem? Then you won't have those feelings anymore.
Yeah. You know, it's funny how so many times couples have such different personalities. So like opposites, they say opposites seem to attract, right? But apparently the personality differences can cause some serious clashes. So is it important or worthwhile to take time to do a personality analysis in order to understand how we see the world as compared to our spouse?
The short answer is yes. It's definitely worthwhile. When I had my company called BCT Structures, I had to lose my $50 million company. Largest plant built in manufacturing. I know I'm bragging. See, there's the guy's ego. And I had to lose it all. But even when I had it and I was going through all my struggles in life, and I'm a bit of a softie, I wanted this for our employees, not too much of this and none of this. How do we get here? So all of the staff that I hired, I used the personality, and I used True Colors. I didn't know True Colors back then, but I was using this 8 questions. It's now 10 questions that I've expanded it to. It's all over North America. They use it in the school systems. And it's the simplest to use because in the color code of blue, green, orange, and gold, you can tell who's the more sensitive or romantic one, which is important when you're coaching couples. They also have cards for children. They can quickly arrange it in 10 seconds. They know who they are. Personalities is important because blue is sensitive, relational, green is analytical, orange is spontaneity, fun, go for it, and gold is organized and structured. They have their upside and their downside. It's very, very important. Goals are organized and structured and loyal, but they're bossy, controlling, and inflexible. Blues are sensitive, compassionate, and caring. They're bleeding heart and needy and an enabler. So we need to know our greatest strengths to be our greatest weaknesses. So what I do for couples, and I combine their personalities with their love languages. So they get their score on their love languages. So words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. So when you combine those two with the gender, you have a very powerful profile. And I share with the husband and wife how they individually tick, but also where they connect and where they disconnect. When you can understand each other, you can go, oh, that's why they behave and think the way they do. They have a different set of lenses. We also get into upbringing. So our upbringing is a huge manifestation. So it is very wise to understand. Most people think they're going to get it through osmosis. No, you need to learn.
Right. So when spouses do have those conflicting personality types, what advice do you have to adjust for this to make things work? Or is there anything people need to adjust in their, I don't know, I don't want to say personality, but I guess, yeah.
Good question. The adjustment first comes from understanding. I think there's a huge wall that starts to come down when we understand the way each other thinks and feels and perspectives. So at least you can start to understand it. You don't just criticize or get mad at them for not seeing it my way. That's important. The other thing we do get to, which is huge, is because, as I shared with you before, when we cross our arms, that becomes the comfortable way. But if I was to reverse it, most people struggle to reverse it. That can be comfortable. So it's what we get used to. There's only 2 motives in the world. It's either love or selfishness. It's either what you can do for me or what can I do for you. Most of the time, Christian or non-Christian, we're focused on me, 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 me. We don't know it. That's our number one problem in the world. We're addicted to self. And we're comfortable with it. So we're habitually practiced at it. So I can get to the head and the heart, but if we don't get to the habit, so not only understanding, which helps, then helping them have a communication tool, which I call Safe Talk, but ultimately we need to start practicing giving. And here's the cool part. When we're giving, we're living. Why does it take a high river flood, a Fort McMurray fire, a California fire, a Haiti, Japan, and New Orleans? Why does it take a disaster for us to get off our selfish couches and go give, expecting nothing in return? Expecting nothing in return. So if I can help husband and wife understand each other and they can start giving, expecting nothing in return. And I say, husbands, when you treat your wife right, she blossoms. Can you imagine if husbands and wives started putting the other one first? Because the true definition of love is self-giving, not self-seeking. Love is me last and you first.
Yeah, what a wonderful world it would be.
That's why Jesus came to give his life. He wanted to show us that, not only save us, but show us that love is me last, not me. And when you start to put the other first, when you're giving, you come alive, and the gift is in the giving. So once we realize I was going in the wrong direction.
Right.
And the more I chase the me race, the more empty.
Brent, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your wisdom. We appreciate having you on again.
Thank you. And I just want to have that little quote I shared before. I said, if we can put love back in the marriage, we can put love back in the world.
There you go, right there. Brent Taylor is a Lethbridge marriage coach and the author of His, Hers, Greatest Need. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.